All right, so tonight we are learning the teachings of Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen from Lublin, Parshat Shemot. And Parshat Shemot we're going to learn is a bit of a dark parsha, and it's the beginning of something good. But this week's parsha is actually a parsha of darkness, and this is the parsha where we are introduced to Moshe Rabbeinu, and Moshe Rabbeinu was born into darkness, and that is what he represents, and so, really, and in the same way, so the Jewish people in Egypt, so this is the beginning of the Jewish people, and so the whole existence of the Jewish people was an existence from darkness. And so this is really, what we're going to be learning about today is the definition and the essence of what it means to be a Jew, and how that expresses itself, plays itself out through the person that saved the Jewish people, through Moshe Rabbeinu. And so he starts by explaining that there's an interesting thing. It says in the Zohar that there's 53 parshas. It says Gan Parshiot. The Gan means a garden, and so there's Gan Parshiot, 53 parshas. So he says that if you count it, it's actually 54, and V'zeh Bracha doesn't count because we don't read it on Shabbos, and that's why V'zeh Bracha is really just this farewell speech. It's not really part of the Torah, so that's why it's not in the Cheshbon. There's other explanations, which is the one that doesn't count. The point is that there's 53, and what's interesting is that it would make more sense if that there was 50. Why? Because there's 5 books, right? Chamisha Torah. And why is there 5 books? So it says in the Midrash that the 5 books is corresponding to the 5 times it says in the Torah, or, that on the first day of creation, so it says the word or 5 times. V'yamar Elokim hi or, v'hi or, v'yaris or kitov, v'yavdeh Elokim ben ha'or ben ha'choshech. It says 5 times it says the word or, and so those 5 times are corresponding to the 5 books of Moses. And so there's 5 ors, there's 5 lights that need to be expressed, and each light is comprised of 10, because there's 10 sefirot, there's 10 spiritual levels and everything. So that's why it would make sense that there's 50. So how's it work out? So there's 11 in Devarim, and that's, we said V'zeh Bracha doesn't count. And then there's 10 in Bamidbar, and there's 10 in Vayikra, and there's 11 in Shmais, and there's 12 in Bereshis. So we have 2 extra ones in Bereshis, and we have 1 extra one in Shmais. So what's up with these extra ones? So he says that really the first 2 parshas, Bereshis, Shmais, they don't count. Why? Because when we're talking about the 10 parshas of Or, we're talking about the 10 parshas of light, so we can't count Bereshis and Noach, because Bereshis and Noach is before Avraham came around. When Avraham came around, Avraham represents the beginning of the expression of light in the world, and the revelation of light in the world. And so Bereshis and Noach is all the mess ups. It's all about the sin and the Mabul and the Tower Babel and all the people messing up. And so the Or really begins in Parshas Lech Lecha, and that's why there's actually 10 parshas of light. And the same thing in Sefer Shmais. So the Geula, the redemption of Parshat Shmais, only starts in next week's parsha, in Va'era. But really, Parshat Shmais is the parsha of darkness. It's a parsha only of exile, only of servitude, and we haven't really begun the light, the Or of Sefer Shmais. So this parsha is a sefer of darkness. It's a book. It's a parsha of darkness. The Parsha Shmais is really a parsha of darkness, and it's in this context that Moshe Rabbeinu comes around. Now, he has an interesting diuk that it says at the very beginning of the parsha that Ve'elu Shmais b'nei Yisrael et Yaakov ishu beis Obal. So the parsha starts with b'nei Yisrael, and then it says et Yaakov, because it switches from Yaakov has 2 names. He's called Yisrael. He's also called Yaakov. And it says that Yisrael represents his status when he is on top. Okay, Yisrael stands for Li Rosh, that I have a head. I'm the head, I'm the top. And Yaakov is from the word Akev, which means heel, which is the bottom. So that the Yaakov Avinu / the Jewish people, so when they're in their elevated identity, they're called Yisrael. When they're in their lower identity, they're called Yaakov. So the question is, why does it, if it's the Bnei Yisrael, so then immediately it goes to Ed Yaakov. So what's it trying to say? That to bring in that it was also Yaakov that came into Mitzrayim. So he says a very deep thing, and that is that Yaakov represents the Torah. Yaakov represents the Torah. It says that the world depends on three things: on the Torah, on Gemilut Chasadim, and on Torah, and service of God, and acts of kindness. So Avraham Avinu is the king of kindness, so he's Gemilut Chasadim, and Yitzchak Avinu, he was the king of serving God, and Yaakov Avinu, so he represents Torah. Okay, so Yaakov Avinu is the one that's learning Torah. He was the one we find that he was learning Torah in yeshiva for 22 years. That he's the one that represents Torah. So the Midrash says an interesting thing. That is that the name Yaakov is itself, in the letters of the name, is hinting to different things about the Jewish people. And the Yud is 10. 10 is the 10 Commandments. Ayin is 70. And 70 represents the 70 elders, the Zekanim, which eventually turned into the Sanhedrin. And Kuf is 100. 100 represents that was the height of the Hechel, the height of the place of the inner part of the Beis HaMikdash. And the Bet represents the Shnei Luchos HaBris, the two tablets that Moshe Rabbeinu brought down. So he says like this, that all of these things are actually connected to Torah, because the Ten Commandments is obviously Torah, and the two tablets is obviously Torah, and the elders, what's their point? Their point is to distribute Torah to the Jewish people, and the Hechal, the 100 Amas. So what was in the Hechal? What was in the Hechal was the menorah, and the menorah represents Torah. Okay, that's what we spoke about on Hanukkah. So, but what's an interesting thing? That the outside, the Yud and the Bet, that's the Ten Commandments and the two tablets, that is the written Torah. And the inside, that's the elders and the menorah, that represents the oral Torah. So why is the outside the written Torah and the inside the oral Torah? Because really, the written Torah is the chitzonis, is the externality of the Torah, but the soul of the Torah is actually in the oral Torah. The neshama of the Torah is actually in the oral Torah, and that's what Yaakov represents. That's what Yaakov's identity is representing the Torah being expressed. That the inside is this life source of the Torah Sheba'al Peh, which is giving life to the written Torah. So now, the reason why this is hinted to in the name Yaakov is because we said that Yaakov represents the lower status of the Jewish people, and it's specifically the oral Torah that is connected to the lower part of the Jewish people. And so Tzadok brings a crazy midrash to understand this idea, to explain this idea. The midrash can be found in Vayikra Rabbah, in Parak Tes, that it's a story about a tzaddik by the name of Rabbi Yanai. Rabbi Yanai, one of the Amorai. So it says that Rabbi Yanai, so he saw this distinguished-looking fellow, and he found him in the shuk, and he thought he was a big rabbi. And so he said, would his honor please honor us by joining us for the meal? And he said, sure, I love meals. And so he ate, he's eating and he's drinking, and then he wants to find what kind of person did I invite. So he starts asking him questions in Chumash, and he doesn't know. And he starts asking questions in Navi, he doesn't know. Asks questions in Ksuvim, he doesn't know. Asks questions in Mishnah, he doesn't know. Asks questions in Gemara, he doesn't know. And he's just like, he said that do you know how to bench? So he said let Yanai bench. It's your house. You do the honor. So he said, do you know how to repeat after me? So he says, yeah. He says, repeat after me. a dog ate Yanai's food. That's what he said. He was so appalled at this guy that he said that he called him a dog. And the guy was taken back, and he said, we're inheriting the same thing. We have the same inheritance, and you're holding me back. What are you doing? We have the same inheritance. And he said, what are you talking about? So he says, I was once walking by the back of a school where there were boys learning Torah, and I heard that they were learning. It says in the Torah that Torah tziva lana Moshe Marasha Kilat Yaakov, that the Hashem gave us the Torah, and it's the inheritance of the whole Beit Yaakov. It doesn't say Marasha Beit Yanai. That's what he says. He said that's what the guy. He says it doesn't say Marasha Beit Yanai. It says Marasha Beit Yaakov. So it says that the Torah belongs to everybody. And so why are you treating me like this? Why are you making it? Why do you think that if I don't know anything, so then I don't deserve to be in your company? And so he says, whoa, tell me, how did you merit to get here? So he realized that he's missing something. If this guy is able to tell him off like this, then there must be some part of the story that he's missing. So he says that never in my life did I hear a bad thing about a Jew, and I let it sink in. I never accepted any bad news about anybody. I just completely disregarded it. And any time that I heard about two people who were getting into an argument, I made sure to make peace between them. And so Rabbi Yanai says, "Oh my gosh!" And this person, I called him a dog, and he did true. Yeah, that's the end. That's a nice. It's a nice story. And so Tzadok says that this is what the Midrash really means. That it says, it doesn't say Marasha Beit Yanai. It says Beit Yaakov. So that's trying to tell us that the reason why the Torah says Marasha Beit Yaakov is the reason why it's called Beit Yaakov is because Kehilat Yaakov. That the reason why it says Kehilat Yaakov is because Yaakov represents even the low people, even the people that are on the outside, that they seem like they have nothing to redeem themselves, that they seem like they're completely empty of Torah, but the Torah is connected to them as well, and not only that, but he was able to teach Rabbi Yanai, the Tzadok Kador, Rabbi Yanai, the biggest Talmid Chacham, this ignoramus was able to teach Rabbi Yanai something he didn't know. He was saying that you're just wrong. You're just wrong that you think that Torah is only for the elite, that even simple people like us can understand things in Torah that even you can't understand. That's what he was teaching. So that, says Rav Tzadok, is the essence of Torah Sheba'al Peh. That Torah Sheba'al Peh, that the written Torah, that represents the chitzonis. The written Torah, that represents the outside, the formal expression of Torah. That the formal expression, the conventional Torah, is that, okay, rattle it off, tell me like how many psukim do you know by heart, how many mishnayos do you know by heart, and that, but then there's also the neshama of the Torah. The neshama of the Torah, it can't be quantified by how many psukim you know, how many mishnayos you know. That the neshama of the Torah is your deeper connection, and it could be that he has something to teach you that can come from this place of deeper connection that you would know in the entire Shas forwards, backwards, so that you don't even know. Because that's what's special about the Torah Sheba'al Peh. So now the question is that how is it that simple people are really connected to the Torah? Like where did they get the connection from? So he brings an interesting midrash. The midrash says, Chaviv Moshe Minach. The midrash in this was special. Chaviv Moshe Minach, that Moshe is more beloved than Noach, because by Noach at the beginning it calls him in Ish Tzadik, and then afterwards it calls him in Ish Adama. Okay, at the beginning, when we first meet him, it calls him in Ish Tzadik, that he was a Tzadik, and then later, after the whole story of the flood, so it says that Ish Adama, he was a man of the field, and that's why he planted the vineyard, and he got drunk, and he became a mess. So by Moshe, Mishanikra Ish Mitzri, Nikra Ish Elokim. By Moshe, he started in Ish Mitzri. He started that he was called an Egyptian, and then he became Ish Elokim, a man of God. Okay, so we ask, why exactly are we calling him an Ish Mitzri? Like, it's true that like when it says in the Torah, who calls him an Ish Mitzri? The daughters of Yisrael. That he helps the daughters of Yisrael, and they come and tell their father Yisrael. They tell like, how did you? What are you doing here? So he says, an Egyptian helped us, and that they wanted to hurt us, and the Egyptian helped us. They were referring to Moshe, and so he says, what do you mean? So why didn't you bring him home? And that's how he came home. And that's how he married his daughter in Tzipar, and so that's where it says Ish Mitzri. But why would but he wasn't really Mitzri. They thought he was a Mitzri, but he wasn't really Mitzri. So why would the Midrash call him an Ish Mitzri if he wasn't really a Mitzri? Now there's a different Midrash that says that when it says Ish Mitzri, so Hitzilan min Arayim. So what does it mean? What does it mean Ish Mitzri? It means the Egyptian that Moshe killed. Because why was he running? Why was he running to Israel? Because he was scared the Paro was going to kill him. Why was Paro going to kill him? Because he murdered one of the slave masters, the taskmasters. And so the Midrash, in a different opinion, says that it's referring to that. But he says in Pshat that can't be what it means, because of course Moshe didn't tell the daughter of Israel by the way, I'm a murderer and that's why I'm coming here. You have a place for me to stay. so that is in Pshat he didn't tell them. So the Torah so they're referring to him. So why would the Torah call him a Mitzri if he wasn't really a Mitzri? And the answer that Tzadok says is that the truth was that Moshe was considered a Mitzri. That he actually was considered a Mitzri because he was brought up by Basya. So his entire upbringing was Mitzri. He actually was a Mitzri. And that's how he explains an interesting thing. It says that when Paro saw, when his sorcerers saw that there's going to be somebody who's going to take away, who's going to save the Jews, and he's going to come from the water. And so he said, anybody that's going to be born today needs to be killed. So it said in the Midrash that he even murdered the Egyptian babies. So the question is, why couldn't the sorcerers tell him that which nation it was, if it was from the Jews or from the Egyptians? So the answer is because they didn't know. Because he was actually, it wouldn't be accurate to say that he was a Jew and not an Egyptian, because he was actually an Egyptian. He was actually an Egyptian. So he actually was considered an Egyptian, and he needed to be an Egyptian. Why did he need to be an Egyptian? Because in order to have Eitzias Mitzrayim, he was the leader that was supposed to be facilitating the Exodus. So in order to facilitate the Exodus, he needed to be able to connect to the Jewish people. And the Jewish people, they were so entrenched in everything bad that Egypt had to offer. It says that they were in the 49th level of Tumah. So they were deeply, deeply involved in all the Avodah Zarah. It says that when they were time for Kriyas Yam Suf, it says that the angels were saying that, what's the difference? They're just as bad. The Egyptians and the Jews are just as bad as the Egyptians. So the Jews were completely entrenched in the Egyptian culture and the Egyptian sins. And so in order to save them, he needed to be one of them. So the only way for him to be one of them is that he should actually be an Ish Mitzri, that he should actually be considered an Egyptian. And that's why that Hashem made it that the Redeemer of the Jewish people would need to be growing up with the Egyptians. And the reason why he was able to be the Redeemer is because even though he was brought up completely in a secular culture, but he didn't allow the impurity to affect him. And he quotes from the Midrash that it's going to be the same thing by Mashiach. That Mashiach is going to have to be, because the job of Mashiach is to save even the people that are far out, to make sure that even that Ha'ovdim be'eretz Asher v'hanidachim be'eretz Mitzrayim, the people the furthest out, the people the most off the derech, so the most assimilated, he needs to be part of them. The Mashiach also, it's like, so I don't know where Mashiach is, but he's not in some island of Kedusha. He's not that the Midrash says the Mashiach is going to be walking around in some pro-Palestinian university, and so And so so this is why Moshe Rabbeinu, so he actually needed to be an Egyptian. And this is really what it means, that when the Midrash is saying that Moshe was greater than Noach. So he notes that, what does it mean? What is the Midrash trying to say? What's the Midrash trying to say? So obviously it doesn't mean who thought that Moshe wasn't greater than Noach? Like, why does the Midrash?
Nobody.
What?
Nobody,
right? So obviously Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the king of the prophets. He's the person who brought down the Torah. Like, there's no comparison. There's no competition. So Tzadok explains that there was there was no question who was greater, but there was a different question. That by Noach it says something else. It says Noach matzachen be'enei Hashem. That Noach, he found favor in the eyes of Hashem. And it's the similar pasuk that it says by Moshe Rabbeinu. That Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu after the sin of the golden calf, he says Ki matzata chen be'enai, that you found favor in my eyes. So it says by both Moshe and by Noach that he found favor in Hashem. So there's two things. That like being greatness is what you earn, is what you achieve. So there's no question that in terms of achieving, in terms of earning, of course Moshe Rabbeinu was bigger. But there's I like you just because. I like you just because of who you are. It doesn't matter what you do. I just like you because that's chen. Okay? So, and regarding that, so the Midrash says that a person might have thought, in terms of how much Hashem likes Noach, he likes Noach more than he likes Moshe. And that's why no, Chaviva Moshe Minach, that Moshe was more beloved than Noach. And that's why he's saying, that's what the Midrash says, that we see the difference of the essence of Moshe as opposed to the essence of Noach, because if something is essentially very, very holy, so that holiness can never leave it. Okay, there's a term in halacha that says malin b'kodesh v'lo meridin, that holiness only gets bigger, it never gets smaller. That holiness never goes away. So there's something else that goes away. There's something called tashmish mitzvah. If you
holiness never goes away.
I'll explain. I'll explain more. But when you have a mitzvah, it's a decision. That when you have a mitzvah, so sometimes you can do a mitzvah and you take a talis. So then if you take a tzitzis, your tzitzis gets dirty. So what do you do with the dirty tzitzis? So it says you throw it out. You have to throw it out in a nice way. You have to put it in the bag before you throw it out. But you can throw it out because the tzitzis isn't holy. But something which is something like Sefer Torah, you have to bury it. The holiness doesn't, even though it's not nice anymore, even though it's ripped up, but the holiness it's forever. So Noach, so he did a lot of mitzvahs, and because of his mitzvahs, so he earned a certain level of favor in Hashem's eyes, but that wasn't permanent, and he messed up later, and he got drunk, and Hashem doesn't like drunk people so much, and so, but Moshe Rabbeinu had something else. The Moshe Rabbeinu that Mishenikra Ish Mitzri Nia Ish Elokim, that even when he was in Mitzrayim, he was already a man of God. He was such that Egypt couldn't affect him because he was a man of God, and this is what it means when it says that when he was born, so the house was filled with light. The house was filled with light when Moshe Rabbeinu was born. That he had this kedusha, and the holiness is something which is unique to Jewish people. That Noach, so he was non-Jewish, and so because he was non-Jewish, so he could never have kedusha. He could be an upright person. He didn't have the sins of his generation that they were stealing, and so he was an upright person. He was a moral person. He was a good person, but he wasn't a holy person. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he was from the onset, he was a holy person. This is the difference. This is the difference between Jews and non-Jews. That, like, I tell a lot of people that, like, people tell me that I think that to be a good Jew means to be a good person. That's like I think I'm a very good Jew because I try my hardest to be a good person. And so when this happens, so people say, I tell these people that they're like, hold on a second, are you trying to tell me that a non-Jew is not supposed to be a good person? So they say, of course, actually you're right. No, non-Jews are also supposed to be good people. So I explained that a non-Jew is supposed to be a good person, and a Jew, so he has to start somewhere. Now you have to also be a good person, but that's not enough. That's being a good non-Jew. To be a good Jew means that after you're a good person, you're also holy. And that's what's unique about Jews, is that they're not just good, they're not just moral, they're even holy. And that kedusha, that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was expressing by filling the house with light. Yeah.
Did Noach also keep did he learn the Torah that Adam Avinu learned? Adam Rishon.
Rav Tzadok does say that it says in one place that he knew something, that it says for example that he knew the difference between pure animals and impure animals, kosher animals, non-kosher animals. Right? The Rashi does bring down that he knew some amount of Torah, but it certainly was not the same connection as Moshe. He didn't keep Shabbos. He wasn't, and so it was certainly a different kind of connection to Torah.
He shouldn't keep Shabbos.
Right?
He's a goy.
Exactly. And like it says by Noach that v'yom v'layla yishposu, that you have to keep on working. That it's from Noach that we learn that a non-Jew is not allowed to keep Shabbos. So the difference between Noach and Moshe is that Noach was a tzaddik, but he was a good person, and Moshe was a holy person. And so that holiness that's being expressed in the fact that he filled the room with light, so that holiness was the holiness of Torah. And because he was so connected to Torah, that he was going to be the person that was going to bring the Torah into the world. So that connection to Torah, that is what filled the room with light, and that is the light that we started with, that the light of the Torah. So now he explains that the light, the Torah of Moshe Rabbeinu, was specifically what we call the written Torah. Okay, his job, his mission was to bring down what we call the written Torah. Now, it doesn't mean that he wasn't bringing down the oral Torah. He obviously did bring the oral Torah, but there's two ways of learning. There's two ways of learning. There's one way of learning which is a direct way, and there's one way of learning which is a convoluted way. A convoluted way, a hard way, and in that sense, so what Moshe Rabbeinu learned with the Torah of Moshe was very straight, very to the point. That he was a person that was born pure, and he was just understood everything very simply, and so he was able to just download the entire Torah very, very easily. And the Arizal writes that Rabbi Kiva, so he represented the oral Torah. Meaning, when we say the oral Torah, in this sense, we mean that the kind of Torah that involves thinking very hard, the kind of Torah that involves analyzing, the kind of Torah that involves that everything is just vague, everything is confusing, and so he represented that a different kind of Torah, a different connection to Torah, and that's why it says that there's a midrash that Moshe Rabbeinu saw a vision of the generation of Rabbi Kiva, and he saw that Rabbi Kiva was giving a class, and he didn't understand what Rabbi Kiva was saying. That he was confused by Rabbi Kiva, and it says the Chal Shadaita. He got really burned out. He was very overwhelmed. That Rabbi Kiva is so much greater than him. So Rav Tzadok explains because Rabbi Kiva, he was about tshuva. Until he was 40 years old, so he didn't know a holy word. He didn't know how to read. He didn't know a thing of Torah. So he was about tshuva. So because he was about tshuva, so his connection to Torah was through the darkness, and that's why about tshuva merits to the 50th gate, of understanding. The Moshe Rabbeinu, he only had 49 gates, and because he was a tzaddik, because he was born holy, but Rabbi Kiva, because he was about tshuva, so only about tshuva merits to the 50th gate of understanding. And that's why Rabbi Kiva was able to understand things that Moshe Rabbeinu himself wasn't able to understand. And so he says that's why the Arizal writes he says that the Ishbitzer writes, his Rebbe, that Moshe was connected to Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and Rabbi Kiva is connected to that Lo Yalecha Elohim Acher, the first two commandments. The first, I am the Lord your God. The second is, you shouldn't have any avodah zarah. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the source of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, and Rabbi Kiva is the source of don't have any other gods. So what does that mean? So Moshe Rabbeinu is simply about downloading holiness, bringing holiness down into the world. That's his thing. And Rabbi Kiva, what's his thing? Rabbi Kiva is when you're born into a completely secular world, when you're born into your entire value system is a secular value system, but to fight against your surroundings and to make it as a Baal Tshuva. So that's what Rabbi Kiva represents, and that's why that's what Lo Yalecha, all the negatives, all the don'ts, all the having boundaries, all the cutting away at what I'm used to, cutting away at what everybody is bombarding me with, what they think is the truth. I'm saying, no, that's not the truth. I'm fighting. That's not Moshe Rabbeinu's business. That Moshe Rabbeinu is just, he's connected, he's sweet, he's like, he only knows holiness. And Rabbi Kiva is Lo Yalecha. And that's how he explains that there's an interesting midrash that says that Rabbi Elazar ben Zaya once was talking to Rabbi Kiva, and he says, Rabbi Kiva, why are you busy with Agada? Why are you busy with Midrashim? Kalcha, it's on the Goyim Bahalos. Your place is to learn about the halachas of tzaras and to learn the halachas of Tumah. And the question is, what was he saying? Why was he telling off Rabbi Kiva? Rabbi Kiva was a very holy man. He was a very spiritual man. So the Ishbitzer writes that this is what he meant, because Rabbi Kiva's thing was Tarash Bal Peh, of working through the ambiguity, working through the darkness, working through the confusion. And so his connection was in destroying evil in the world. Moshe Rabbeinu's place was the place of downloading Kedusha, and Rabbi Kiva's place was destroying the Tumah. So the Agada, like learning Chassidus, learning things like this, learning the more spiritual part of Torah, that's the way that you connect with holiness. And it's through the oral Torah, it's through Nagayim Valos, he says that it represents that you get leprosy for speaking Lashon Hara. And so the dealing with leprosy, dealing with all of the dirty part of reality, ahalos, that's Tumas Pes, that's dealing with all of the impurity that comes about death, dealing with the hard parts of reality. So that was Rabbi Kiva's place. And because he had to deal with all the darkness, with all the dirt, all the mud in the world, so that's what actually brought him to a deeper place. So this is the difference between Moshe Rabbeinu and Rabbi Kiva. Now he doesn't say this explicitly, but I understood from Tzadok that Mashiach, when he says that Mashiach is going to also have to be an Ish Mitri in that sense. So I understood that what he's saying is that he's actually going to be like Rabbi Kiva, that he's actually going to be about Tshuva, that the first Geula was coming from a Moshe Rabbeinu that was just born very pure, and the second Geula is going to come from a place of through the darkness, which is really the Kedusha of Rabbi Kiva. This is really what the Kedusha of a Jew is, and this is what the Midrash is saying when it says that Moshe Rabbeinu, so he needed to be an Ish Mitzri because he was an Ish Kadosh. So really he's telling us what is the secret to the fact that Beit Yaakov, what is the Kehilat Yaakov, that getting back to the story about the guy that was telling off Rabbi Yanai, that it says that the Torah is for everybody. The Torah is for everybody. That even people that look to you like they're empty, look to you like they're like good for nothing, they're emissaries. So that the Torah is mine too. So why is the Torah mine too? Because I have this inner kedusha. Because my soul is coming from a place that is very, very pure. So don't look at the outside. We said the outside that represents Moshe Rabbeinu. The outside, that the yud and the bet, that's what's called the written Torah. That's the external appearance of the Torah. In the external appearance of the Torah, so a Talmid Chacham is wearing a black hat and a long suit, and there's a certain way that in the conventional way that a Talmid Chacham is supposed to look. That's only in the world of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's only in the world of Yisrael. It's only in the world of what's called Torah Shabbat. But there's a whole different element of Torah, and that's that every single Jew is connected to the Torah just from his very essence. That's Yaakov. That Eis Yaakov Yishu B'Sabal. That the Torah Shabbat Peh is connected specifically to Yaakov. Even Amaratzim, even complete ignoramuses, they still, just by their essence of their soul, are connected to the oral Torah, which is actually the Torah of Tshuva, which is actually connected to the 50th gate of understanding, which is really the holiest place. So this is the secret of the Jewish identity. The words of the pasuk in Shir Hashirim. So it says, "Shachara ani v'nava," that I'm black but beautiful. So it says, what does it mean? What does it mean that I'm black but beautiful? So the Rashi says from the Midrash that the Jewish people, they appear like they're full of mud, and they look like they're just disgusting because they're so dirty. And she says, no, don't look at my external. That just on the inside, I'm very beautiful. That don't look a little bit deeper. Look a little bit deeper, and if you just wash me off, you'll see how I shine. You'll see that, and this is the secret of every Jewish neshama. That this is like they give the metaphor of a diamond. That if you're not an expert in diamonds, then you could see something worth millions, and it'll look like a piece of junk. And it's because it doesn't come in nature. A diamond doesn't look very pretty. It says you have to be able to see the essence. You have to see past what's on the outside. And this is why that the Jewish people on their essence of their soul level, on their Yaakov level, it doesn't matter what you're doing, that your soul is always very, very connected. So this is something that Shlomo Carlebach always talk about. This on Shabbos is his birthday. That you never know. You never know that you can never judge people. Never think that you know who's holy and who's not holy. It could really be that the people that you think are the most holy are really the least holy. Could be the people that you think are the least holy are really the most holy. And it's really that we will never know. And so because we will never know, so don't even bother. Don't even bother. Just assume that every single Jew you ever meet is somebody very, very holy. And this is really the message, the message of this parsha. This is the message of the darkness of Parshat Shemot, that even when there's darkness, so there is really, really deep light. Like he likes to talk about darkness, you know. I guess there's a certain attraction to talking about darkness if you. But he's telling us that really there is no such thing as true darkness. That a Jew is holy by nature, a Jew is holy by definition, and there is something burning in his soul that if you know how to tap into it, then at the right time, so it will shine forth. So I bless us all that we should always be aware of the fact that we are holy, and be aware of the fact that even when we're messing up, even when we're falling, so nothing can temper with the holiness of our essence, and to know that everybody that we meet is holy, and even if it doesn't look like they're so holy, even if they have a bunch of piercings and pink hair, and that they're holy, and they're yearning for kedusha, even if they're saying how much they hate kedusha, that they're really that's their way of saying I love you. That's their way of saying that it's really crazy, like how the people that look the ugliest. So sometimes it's like those are the people that are actually that they're just crying. It's their soul crying in the deepest way, and it's a new way to look at reality. It's a new way to look at everybody around us, and it's really the right way. It's really a more geula-dika way, and it's a healthier way, and it's a way of bringing light to the entire world. Chem.